here it is, 2003 John Deere L120 hydrostatic transmission. Has the Briggs V-twin 20 horsepower on it. This thing is nice and crusty. Hey, what's going on everybody? Alex here with Freedom Mowers. I hope you all are doing well. This is going to be part 2 of our John Deere L120, and this thing has definitely taken quite a bit of work. So definitely, if you have not seen part 1, go see how we got this thing running, and it has been sitting for a long time. But now that we've got it up and at least running, I've got quite a few repairs that need to be done. Now off camera, since the last video, I painted the rear seat pan on here, basically just masked off the front and masked off the sticker, stuff like that. Sanded it down and threw some of the like Rust-Oleum John Deere paint on it, and it turned out pretty well. I've also done the mower deck, which I'll show you guys later because I've done a little bit of work on that, but I'll make sure to keep you guys in the loop on everything that is done. But you guys can see, I mean, it has a good shine. Turned out pretty well. So on this video, we have got to take out the transmission in here because we've got to change out that hydrostatic fan that had no blades on it. Well, we got the transmission out, we're going to change the fluid. I've got 2 new pulleys for the middle here for the drive belt, and we've got a brand new drive belt for it. I've got a new deck belt, I've got new blades. We'll see about maybe doing an oil change on camera. That's not really a big deal, but I think that's what we've got going on. I'm trying to remember everything. But I'm gonna get this pulled in the shop. We're gonna get this up on the lift, and we're gonna get started on taking apart the PTO and the other pulleys so we can drop that old drive belt off, and then we'll drop it down and get this rear end out. So let's get started. All right, so we are on the lift. First thing we gotta do is get this PTO wiring off. And on this one, it is actually, if I can get my light on it right there, looks like it's just a clip. So I've got my angled pliers here. Sometimes these things are kind of a pain to get off. I think there's a little tab on the top that I've got to loosen up. All right, I was actually able to get that loose with my fingers. I just had to get the right wiggle, and came right off. So we are disconnected there. I've got a, what are we working with here? This is a 5/8. I'm hoping this impact will have enough. Well, this one doesn't have enough to take it off, so let me grab my bigger impact. All right, we got a bigger Ugga Dugga here, so let's try this. Easy peasy. Now I gotta make sure this doesn't fall on me. So now we can just drop down the PTO. I have gone ahead and pushed in the parking brake to give us slack on our belt. Alright, so instead of fighting that pulley, I'm actually gonna take the 2 engine mounting bolts out that hold, it looks like the guard to keep us from getting the belt off. I did just crack those loose with the breaker bar. So we'll go easy with these. Can drop that. And that's how we did it. So now we've got front of our drive belt off, and I've got to figure out, I want to make sure you guys can see everything here. I've got to take the steering shaft nut off, and then we got to pull that up because the belt actually goes around the steering shaft, and then we can just move our way to the back. So let me figure out what size that is. And I've got a 19 on here for this nut. I did crack it loose, so got that nut off. All right, well, I did get it moving, still not freed up yet, so I'm just gonna have to take a punch because I don't want to mess up or mushroom this. So I'm just gonna go right in the center and see if I can't start tapping this out. All right, we got it. So now there is just a washer up there. I believe that stays in place. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up on the steering wheel from above and just get this enough where we can clear that belt, and then we can pull it off the rest of the way. I did go ahead, it was just another 5/8 on this pulley. We had removed this one last time, but I've got 2 new pulleys to go in, and I have to loosen them anyways to get them past those keepers. But now we are just on the transmission, which we're gonna have to drop anyways, so I'll leave that on for now, and I'll get everything cleaned up from underneath, because there was a ton of debris that fell down on me. But I'll get all this cleaned up, we'll drop it back down, and then we'll work on getting that rear end out. Alright, and before I drop this down, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys here on the front to get this transmission out. We've got this mount right here. I've got to take this cotter pin out, and then this rod comes up. This will stay on the machine. That's the parking brake. We've got to get the bolts off from the back of the transmission, or there on the side. And then on this side, don't have my light over here, but we've just got one more mount. We've got to take this plug loose, the electrical connection, and then I believe, yeah, then we've got one more rod that goes up to the top. It has like one of those washers that has like, I'm not sure what they call it, but it's like a keeper washer. It basically just like presses on and holds it in place. And then after that, we've just got our 4 bolts here in the rear, and I believe we have to take the rod off from here as well, and I'll look at that and figure out what we got to take off. But I'm gonna go ahead and take off those side mounts, the 2 arms, and then I'll show you guys when we're dropping the bolts on this and actually pulling the rear end out. So it's 13 nut and 13 bolt from what I can tell. So we'll go ahead and take these all out. I am gonna wait to put the jack underneath until I get these all out. Now that rod that's on the right hand side that I had to disconnect, it's kind of between the frame and the transmission, so I still wasn't able to get it all the way off, but it is disconnected. So when we get the transmission totally unhooked from the machine and we start to lift this up, then I'll go ahead and disconnect that rod. So yeah, now I can pull that rod. All right, we are good to go. It's basically just gonna roll around on me, but that's pretty much about it. I am gonna lift up the back a little bit higher, and then I'll slide the transmission out. I'll show you guys what it looks like after I pull it, and then more than likely we're gonna give it a pressure wash and see what we gotta do to take that hydrostatic fan off from there. All right, and this is how I got it. Put a ratchet strap around the rafter, and this thing is so light in the rear. After you get the transmission out, I could lift it up. I just hooked it to the rear, so we've got that out of the way, and then just move my jack, and here we are. So it looks like on this pulley it's just a snap ring, and then hopefully we can get this right off and then slide down our new fan. Underneath of all this muck right here is going to be our port where we can empty and fill. There's going to be a magnet under there too we can take a look at, but you can see this transmission is just packed with dirt. So I'm going to go ahead and go give this a wash real quick. I'll come back and then we can start to disassemble and get the fluid changed and get that new fan on there. Alright, well, I got that transmission cleaned up. I did hit it a couple times with the pressure washer and some degreaser, but that dirt and grime was on there. Now I didn't see any actual leaks or anything like that originally, so I'm hoping that we're good there. I didn't see anything around axle seals. Now I've got our snap ring pliers, just got that off. Be careful not to lose that or hit yourself in the eye. Take that off, and then our pulley just comes right off. And that is it. So before we put the new fan on, we're gonna go ahead and pop off this cap and we'll drain out what's in here. I'll show you guys what I'm gonna be putting in and how much. And then once we get this topped off, we'll probably go ahead and try to prime it a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and put the fan on, and then we can reinstall. So, all right, just had to get a drain pan. I'm gonna use a flathead here. Just be careful not to bang up the case too much or destroy this seal. It shouldn't be too hard to get off. Just give it a few taps and we are loose there. So that's off. Here is our magnet, which does have a little bit on it, but nothing nothing concerning, especially with the hours on this machine. I mean, over 700. So we'll get all that wiped down and with some carb cleaner or brake cleaner, and then we'll get that reinstalled. But at this point, we can go ahead. I just had a block of wood holding that up, and we can drain this out. My pan might not actually work for us. Just put my pan back over here, and I'll just see, basically just fill this cup up, and then I'll just put it in the pan, and we'll keep doing that. And that fluid is pretty dark in here, so I'm glad we're going to be changing this out as I'm spilling it everywhere. Alright, I've got that drained out the best I could. Now, they do make a John Deere hydrostatic fluid. Now, everything I've looked at online said that you can use a 20 weight 50 full synthetic. You guys can let me know what you think, but I've looked up quite a bit on it just to verify, and I've looked up some stuff in the past because I've done a couple of fluid swaps on transmissions. Now this one did say, I believe it was 7/8 to 1 inch from the top. Definitely double check, but that's what I'm going to go with. And I've got 0.88, measured that out, and what I did is I just took from the end of this flathead screwdriver and put some tape on it. So basically as I fill, I'll just keep checking, and once we get up the top, I'm going to find a socket that will fit on here. We'll spin it for a minute, make sure we get some air out. We'll double check our measurement and then go from there. So I'll go ahead and get this, we've got to get it on a level surface. I'm going to get some in there. I'm going to try to get all the air out, and then I'll show you guys exactly where I'm at with it, and then we should just be able to put the cap back on and get our fan installed. Alright, so I think I've pretty much got it. This is the fluid that I'm using. It's the 20 weight 50, like I said. Now I went ahead and filled it the first time, and I bled the air out. I actually got quite a bit of air, and I've been running this drill for about another 2 minutes, and we seem like we've got all the air out. I'll show you guys. I basically just have a socket right on there, and then just going slow to get it started. Speed it up. And that's how I've been bleeding the air out of it. So other than that, I think we are pretty well set. I'm gonna double check that just one more time, make sure I'm good. I'm gonna pop this cap back on, and then we can go ahead and finish with the fan install, and then we can go ahead and get this transmission back under the mower and start getting that drive belt routed. Alright, now that we are serviced up, we can go ahead and just drop our new fan on. I just got this one on Amazon, and just drops right down. Now, just got to put our pulley back on top, and then the snap ring. So I'll go ahead and get the snap ring back on, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start our new drive belt on that pulley, because I'll show you the way that this one is set up. We have our belt guards, all these little tangs right here, and then it's going to route to the front, and you guys can see that our old belt was just about to fall apart. So that's pretty much where I'm at with it. I'm going to loop it around the front. I'm going to bring it over here. Well, actually I'll bring it over here, loop it around the front, and then I'm going to slowly start dropping the mower back down onto the transmission and getting all the linkages and everything hooked back up. You guys saw the way it came off. So we'll go in reverse order, and I'll show you once I've got everything hooked up here. All right, the transmission is back in. It was kind of a bear to wrestle by myself, but I did get everything lined up. It went in pretty easy. It's just you got to kind of finagle it for a little bit, but everything is all buttoned up there. I went ahead and pulled out our new pulleys. If you guys saw the first video, our flat idler was totally destroyed. The bearing on it had seized, and then the drive belt basically burned a hole through it. Now I bought this as a kit. It did come with some hardware, but we've got our original. I have the parking brake set on it right now to take the slack off, but I'll show you guys. We've got the belt all routed. Everything is in the tangs on the rear end, and then I've got to drop this pulley down. This is our V pulley. Then we're gonna have to put our flat idler onto this stud, and then I've already gone through the steering shaft and then up onto the engine. So we are pretty much all set there. I am gonna go ahead and just put on the 2 pulleys, and then we can put our plate back on that came off the bottom that holds the belt guides, and then we can put our PTO back on. But really that should be about it. So let me go ahead, get these pulleys on. I'll show you guys how everything looks at the end, and then we can crank this thing up and see how we did. All right, I've got it all back together. Belt is in the grooves. We've got our PTO back on. Just make sure your PTO, where the locking tab is in place. Got that tightened up. Got the cable back in. Our steering shaft is back through. Made sure my steering wheel was nice and centered up. Put the gear on. I did put a little anti-seize on there and torqued down the nut. Our pulleys are all set. New fan, new hydrostatic fluid, new belt. And I think we are sitting pretty good. So I am going to go ahead, get up off the floor, and let's see, I'll probably just go ahead and mount up the seat. That way we've got something to sit on for a minute and we can test all this out. Alright, just pulled this out the shop by hand. Now what I'm going to do for probably the next 10 minutes is I'm going to crank this up. I've got to sit on the seat to keep the seat safety switch engaged. Release the brake like we're going to be driving it, but I'm going to leave the rod out in the neutral position for the hydrostatic, and then I'm going to press on the forward pedal for 20-30 seconds. Then I'm going to go to the reverse pedal, do the same thing, and then back and forth for, like I said, 5-10 minutes. And then after that we're going to go ahead and try this out, but that's just to bleed any remaining air out of the system, and then we should be good. So I will check in with you guys after I get this fully bled. All right, it's been probably about 10 minutes, and I did just move it back and forth a little bit, so I'll show you guys, but everything seems good. And if there is any remaining air, it'll push out as we drive it around a little bit. So we can go ahead and crank it back up. Alright, and it is next day. So in the first video we had a at least one. I think the other bearing was bad in that center spindle too. The outer spindles felt good, but like a couple people commented, why not just change out the all the bearings in it, which they're cheap enough. These are the ones that I bought. They are a 6203 2RS. I just bought those on Amazon. So I did change out all the bearings in it. They're easy enough on these. You basically just need to take the nut, the pulley, and the spacer off. Go ahead and then thread the nut back on so you can tap the spindle out. Once that's out, you got an upper and lower bearing and just a spacer in between, and then you can just tap those out and just get them swapped. Other than that, I did do like a light sand and spray painted this down. I masked off that sticker. I didn't do the best job on it, but honestly, it was just trying to get this deck knocked out. I think in the end, this machine, just with the hours, is not going to go for a ton, and I have already put a lot of work in here, so I just wanted to get a good coat of paint on it and make sure that this thing is fully functional, which it is. I've went ahead and routed the new belt on here, and we are looking pretty good. So I also did paint up the spindle covers, which I'm going to put on, and then I've got blades in that pack. So that's pretty much all I've got. So I'm going to throw you guys on the time lapse. I'm going to put those covers on. I'm going to go ahead and get all the pulleys tightened down. I guess it's just that one, and then I'll flip it up on its back, and we're going to pop these new blades on and make sure everything looks good to go. All right, and you guys saw on the time lapse, I got the whole top side done on it and just got done with the blades. Just double check to make sure that the blades are nice and even, and we are looking good. I checked both sides. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and get the mowing deck pulled outside and get the mower pulled over here. I'm gonna get that mounted up. If you guys remember, or if you saw in part one, we just have the two rear mounts. We have these two bars that hook about halfway or midway on the frame, and then we just have our front connecting rod to put on, and we should be good other than slipping the belt over. But other than that, I'm gonna get this hooked up, and then I'll show you guys when we're cranking it up and testing out the blades. All right, and here we are with the finished L120 John Deere. This thing has taken quite a bit of work. I'm hoping it's not going to be too windy on camera today. It's pretty gusty out here, but I'm hoping it'll keep the wind noise down. This is not the hood that we started with. I had another L120 hood, but I know we could have fixed the other one as well, and I probably still will. I have those hot staples that we can use for that to fix the cracks in the front if I'm going to try to fix up the other parts one that I had. Basically just finished up with kind of dressing up the plastics a little bit, and I put some tape on the seat. I'm gonna order a John Deere seat cover for it. Let's see what else I did. Oh, I painted the back piece here just to kind of get that looking a little bit better. And overall, just did like a full wipe down on it. And you guys have seen where we started to where we are at now, so I am pleasantly surprised at how this turned out, considering the condition to begin with and all the problems we had. But that's what we do here on this channel. So I am going to get you guys set up. We're going to crank this thing up. I'm going to mow probably back and forth here in front of this other shed, and we're going to make sure that everything is solid and good to go on it. It does still need some new plugs and an air filter, but I just did level out the mowing deck on it, which on this one you do have adjustments on both sides. It was a 15 millimeter, I believe, on that nut, and then you can raise or lower as needed. I just adjusted this side to match the other, and then our front to back, it was really low in the front, so I ended up measuring out about 1/8 of an inch difference from the back to the front. So the front is 1/8 of an inch lower. But other than that, I think we are good to go. So let's get to cutting and see how it performs. All right, well, I think that's gonna do it for this machine. We had quite a bit of work on it, but now the deck is nice and quiet. It's driving nice and smooth. It's running good. So other than just finishing up a little bit of servicing on it, I think this machine is ready to go to a new home. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on price of this machine in the marketplace retail, but I probably will try to list it for, I don't know, maybe $650. It's the end of the season and just the overall condition of the machine, but I think it is going to be a good tractor for somebody for years to come. So as always, I really appreciate you guys stopping by the channel and showing the support, and we're gonna have plenty of projects coming up. So on that note, let freedom ring, let the small engine sing. I'll see you all in the next one.